Coach Helton, always a great time getting to talk football with you. Obviously, 2 full football seasons now in the books for you here at Georgia Southern. When you think about your time here in Statesboro and the opportunity to be the head coach here, what's been a strength of this program thus far?
I've always believed, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And, you know, in 2 years, being able to collect the assembly of people that we have that are truly masters of their craft has been rare, and it's been special. From the coaching staff that I think are men of character, that do a tremendous job of developing young people, that have a care and concern, you know, for our student athletes, and are brutally honest with them on a day-to-day basis. So you got kids in that locker room that love the game. They absolutely love and live the game every day of their life. And the supporting cast of nutrition, strength and conditioning, operations, recruiting. I think about the quality of people that are in this building. It helps you get to where you want to go, which is championships.
You talk about quality of people. Another word that is often used is alignment. So you start with the football program, you move up. What's the strength of the athletic department here at Georgia Southern?
Well, it's really our leadership. You know, you think about Jared Benko and what he's been able to do in all 17 sports, not just football, but you think about the new facilities that are being built, the resources that are being given to each and every program. It's a daily, absolute great energy that comes from our athletic leader to be able to help support our athletic department.
Even above that, then obviously Dr. Kyle Marrero and the university side of things.
Yeah, Dr. Marrero just provides an unbelievable working environment. He still thinks he's one of the best DB coaches in the country right now. He loves the game, he loves football, and he understands how important sports are to a university, and I appreciate that. You know, and I think another huge strength of our university is not only its leadership, but its people and alumni and students. You know, I've always felt like a great alumni group gives 4 things. They give their time, they give their knowledge, they give their network, and they give their resources. And this isn't a 4-year experience here. This is a lifetime experience that starts as a student, which is the most passionate fan base I've ever seen in Paulson, to being an alumni group that supports each other all the way through their lifetime.
2 seasons down on the gridiron done. What do you think this team has improved upon, or how do you think this team has improved in the last 2 years?
Well, I think one is just personnel. I think about the job of recruiting that we've done with Ryan Smith from going from day one, and the depth that we've been able to bring in from the state of Georgia and the attached states. I look at, you know, the high school talent that we've brought in and combined it with some transfer portal talent that's created a great balance of young and old. And so I look at us as probably our deepest team going into the 24 season, but also the most talented team we've had since we've been here.
So before we really dive into more football, I think it's also important for fans to know you on a personal level. I know a few of the favorite things that you like to do here in Statesboro, what draws you to want to stay here, but what do you think is maybe one of your favorite things about Statesboro, Georgia?
I think Miss Angela, my wife, puts it best. It starts with the people. The community has been so great to us as a family, how they've welcomed us in. And then, you know, we were in one working environment in a major city, and now we've come to an environment of community, of kind of peace and pace that fits us right now as a family. And, you know, the last part is probably proximity. You know, not many people know, but my entire family's in the Southeast and grew up in Florida. My family, a large part of my family is in Florida. Angela and I went to Auburn University in the Southeast, started our coaching career at Duke University, University of Memphis. So a lot of our friendships and family are right here in the Southeast. So the proximity to what we grew up in has given us a lot of happiness too.
I know so many people are excited and anxious to start talking about the 2024 season, but I do think it's important before we fully turn that page to talk about 2023 and what went right, what went wrong, what you liked, what you didn't like. So what are your takeaways from 2023, and what are you most proud of, but also what are you disappointed with?
Yeah, you know, where I'm most proud is we wanted consistency, being a postseason team, to go to bowl games each and every year, to put ourselves in contention for championships. And, you know, this team started so fast out of the gate and really did a nice job, especially at home. And so I was proud of that. Where I was probably most disappointed, and I think not only myself, our staff, our fans, is just how we finished the season. You know, we put ourselves in a 6-2 position walking into November with our controlling our own destiny. and let it slip away, and not playing tremendous football. But also, we needed to look at ourselves holistically coming into this next season to do the things that we feel like can improve our football team, whether it's better forms of practice for our kids in November. We're bringing in some resources from the catapult system that is going to help us be able to manage workload, to be able to see our team be able to succeed at the end of the year, as well as looking at some practice habits that we can do better to eliminate some unforced errors that happen to us down the stretch.
You talked about the success at home. The power of Paulson is real, nothing to be taken lightly if you're the opponent coming in here. Fans will call it electric. Your student athletes call it electric. How important was it to be able to have the success that you did at home? And also, what did it mean to be able to break the attendance record against Coastal Carolina?
Yeah, I've had some great memories in 30 years of college football. I think that Coastal Carolina game was as special as any of them. Anytime that you go out there and you ask your fan base, hey, let's go do something. Let's go break an attendance record in one of the most pivotal games of the season and be there for our student athletes. And all of a sudden you see 26,000 plus show up, and not only show up, but they're loud and they're electric the whole way through. The beginning of that fourth quarter still gives me goosebumps right now. But that's what this place is. It's what it's always been. There's a passion that happens in this community for this university, for this football team, and it shows up every Saturday in Paulson. And that's probably my most special thing about this university is having that electricity on Saturday nights.
You talk about consistency and personnel being strengths to your program. One way you can see consistency is in your staff. You've retained all three coordinators as we move forward into 2024. So how important is it to have Brian Ellis, Brandon Bailey, and Turner West back with you?
Oh, it's huge. I think anytime you're dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds on a daily basis, routine and consistency is key. And to have three masters of their craft, really extremely young, talented coordinators, some of the best in the business, stay right here in Statesboro for his second year is ultra important. When you look at Brandon Bailey and how he came in last year, 4 days before spring football, and kind of being up against the wall of getting a system in place and getting it ready for the fall season, that was a short amount of period of time. So to be able to have that same system in place with the same leadership, I think is critical. We watched our defense improve last year. I expect even more. Now going into the third season with Coach West and Coach Ellis and special teams and offense, I expect us to be at the top of the nation in those categories, offensively and special teams wise.
Two additions to your staff as well in Langford and Safford. Go into a little bit more about them and just what we can expect from the staff that you have in place.
Yeah, really happy to bring Zach Langford in from Western Kentucky. Obviously somebody I know with my brother being the head coach at Western Kentucky, but really got the opportunity to see the relationship between him and Brian Ellis, who have worked together, and to see the production of their offensive line unit. You look at one of the top offensive line protection units in the country last year at Western Kentucky. And then Darius Safford, a guy that knows this place, another former player that brings extreme knowledge of the rich tradition of history that is Georgia Southern. And I was just blown away by him as a fundamental technician. I think he's going to advance our defensive back core immensely from a fundamental technique standpoint. And I look forward to the energy that he brings on a daily basis. And then we've got one more, kind of not new addition, but changes in roles. With us having to come in the spring 4 days prior with Coach Bailey, we really felt that it was really important for him to do it from the linebacker positions. Our linebackers who make the majority of the calls know the system inside and out. And we brought Coach Eubanks, who had been a safeties coach but also had played linebacker at a very high level. That is his position of trade. We're actually switching those positions and allowing Coach Eubanks to go the linebackers to create great fundamental technique work, and allowing Coach Bailey to go to our secondary with our safeties and nickels, where he has coordinated the majority of his career from. We're also going to make Coach Eubanks our run game coordinator, which I'm very excited for him. He's going to be a defensive coordinator here very, very soon. So to see his advancement is special also. And
consistency in personnel also translates and moves over into the recruiting world. You already spoke about Ryan Smith and the impact that he's made and his team has made in bringing in high school guys, transfer portal guys, etc. So it's very obvious that Georgia Southern has a blueprint when it comes to their recruiting cycle, these last 3 cycles that you all have been in. Break that down for us.
Yeah, I've always said it's following Coach Russell's blueprint to be able to take young men from the Southeast, especially the state of Georgia and the surrounding states, and develop them. There's so much talent in this region, and they're so well coached at the high school level that they're college ready. And to be able to have a young man, you've developed a relationship. We recruit a lot of these guys for years. We've known them since they're 15, 16 years old, and you've developed relationships with them and their families. Then they come to your program. So there's already a trust and relationship built at the high school level. When you look at us right now, we're averaging signing 20 high school players a year. We've signed 60 in the first 3 recruiting cycles. Then you mix in some specific needs in the transfer portal. We're averaging around a half dozen a year that we're able to bring in as key specific positions that are able to help us elevate our team to be the best it can. So that combination of the two has really been done, well done. But at the end of the day, it's about acquiring great high school talent to be able to come in here and grow. And now all of a sudden you see a DeAndre Buchanan as a freshman All-American. You see a Dalen Cobb just spring on the scene and being one of the elite receivers in our conference. So it's neat to be able to take young people and watch them develop with our coaches and have the opportunity to do some special things.
And diving into more of the high school recruiting, it's also important for you all to be in your local areas, to hit the state of Georgia hard. How important is it to protect your home base?
Yeah, we're out right now. We call it the Georgia Storm. We go out for the next 3 weeks and hit all 159 counties. And when you look at the number of athletes that were on our football team last year, a 120-man squad, 87 were from the state of Georgia. I mean, we know how important it is to acquire, local talent. And when you look at over the last 3 recruiting cycles, no FBS team in the country has signed more Georgia high school players to scholarships than Georgia Southern.
Taking a look at the transfer portal, like you said, you've got to sprinkle in those players to fit specific needs. This particular offseason, you didn't see too many of your guys enter the transfer portal, but you are welcoming a handful in. What do you attribute to this program that not many of your current players entered the transfer portal?
Yeah, we're in the trust relationship business. I've always believed that. To be able to build trust and relationships, you have to have one-on-one conversations. I've always believed the greatest gift you can give somebody is your time, and be able to sit down with young men and be able to discuss their plans, be able to discuss their hopes and dreams, be able to tell them, hey, these are your strengths, but these are your areas of growth. Be able to sit down and talk with them outside of football. That when things are going on in their lives that are affecting them, to be able to sit down and discuss, hey, take me through what's going on with you. Sometimes it could be the first time they've ever lost a loved one. Sometimes they broke up with their girlfriend, and maybe it's the first time they've ever had injury. Relationships are so key today in college football, because in this world of transfer portal world, they can leave at any time, and you have to be able to show the value of staying, the value of your relationship, and what they can accomplish if they put in a full career at a university. And so we've been fortunate in being able to keep our student athletes here, and we look forward to continuing to do that.
And of course, one way that you can help keep student athletes is through NIL, name, image, and likeness, for those that don't know. It's a very hot topic of discussion in the college landscape at this point. So how would you say it has changed college football?
Well, I think everybody is thankful that student athletes have the availability to use their name, image, and likeness. As a career, it's such a short window of your athletic career. The average NFL lifespan is 3.3 years. Only 0.5% of all college athletes make it to the NFL. So to be able to have this short window to use your name, image, and likeness, I think we all celebrate. But it also has changed the recruiting world and the things that are important to families, and what I always encourage young men to do is always think big picture. Think about how important it is to be able to get your degree, to be able to keep your alumni network, to be able to build the relationships you've had in universities. Think of your decision as a 40, 50, 60-year decision, that you can become the most valuable asset that you can become. Name, image, and likeness is awesome, and it's a great avenue for young men and women to be able to garner finances based off their their talent and based off their reputation and their brand, but also make sure that it's just as important that you are a master of your craft, that you are building your relationships with your network, and you're getting a degree at the highest level, maybe even putting a master's on it. That's what creates generational wealth. It's a fine line, that you try to educate kids on, but it has become a very important conversation with all families and all student athletes, and one we have on a consistent basis.
And of course, Georgia Southern lucky enough to have its own collective, Eagle Nation Collective, launched in summer of 23. How have you seen that help your student athletes?
Well, we're so fortunate here. I think when the NIL world came into play, there was two realms of thought. You could either be proactive or you could be reactive. And the one thing that I've seen about our leadership and our community here, whether it's a university, whether it's a community, or whether it's a collective, they've chosen to be proactive in everything that we've done. And now I think we're one of the premier group of 5 schools as far as having Eagle Nation Collective and the things it's doing. How about Gata Jam coming up? How cool is that? To be able to partner, our collective partner with Cole Swindell and be able to partner to be able to have one of the premier concerts in this area that's going to happen. So we're very thankful for Eagle Nation Collective, what it's doing, not only for football, but for all 17 sports across. It's really been a huge benefit to our university.
And it really helps you turn the page into the new season. So like I said, 2024 is upon us. It's happening. We are now officially into winter workouts starting this week. So what are your goals for this team in the off season?
Well, one thing that gets lost sometimes, Whitney, I'll be honest with you, is all the attrition that you do have from graduates that leave you. Sometimes you're going to lose coaching staff members, support system. And one of the things that you have to do as a leader is make sure that your culture is never threatened or you assume that everybody knows it. Because you're going to lose about 25%. No matter what you do, you're going to lose about 25% of the building each and every year with staff, players, and people that are in a support role. And so it's so important that everybody understands what we're about and what we stand for. And so it started today with our strength and conditioning program. It's about us reestablishing the mental and physical toughness that this game requires, the accountability and discipline to our team and to each other in that locker room, and putting the team over yourself and the unselfishness it takes to go be ultra successful. And so you have to reestablish that, but not only when you onboard newcomers, but with the guys that are in the locker room. You're not going to assume anything as a leader. So that's the most important thing. Then we want to be able to advance ourselves. You're looking at guys now that we said, hey, this is our 3rd recruiting cycle. They've gone from freshmen, all of a sudden you look up at Latrell Bullard and Elijah Fall and Dalen Cobb, all of a sudden they're going into their 3rd year, and you look at their bodies and how they've advanced under Coach Steiner and now under Coach Heist. We're also advancing our football. With this calendar sped up so much in recruiting, we're able to really jumpstart our football, whether it's walkthroughs and meetings, in the month of January, being able to acquire 2 hours a week by NCAA rule. So we're used to be on the road all the time. We're pulling ourselves off the road for 2 days just to be able to advance us football-wise in the month of January and February. So we're trying to do the things to not only reestablish our culture, and make sure it's still strong at the highest level, but we're also trying to advance our players over the next 8 weeks leading into spring football.
And so you touched on it. James Heist has been welcomed into the support staff, head of strength and conditioning. He's had multiple stops. I know you want to dive into that, but obviously one stop was at Buffalo, and it was neat. Obviously, he was the strength and conditioning coach for former quarterback Kyle Van Treese.
Yeah, really, it's really neat to hear the players aspect when you're interviewing. You lose a gentleman like Coach Steiner who did a tremendous job here, and you want to be able to elevate your strength and conditioning program even higher, And so we went into an extensive search. It basically took about a month to be able to really dive in and say, okay, what's best for our program in this moment? And ran into Coach Heist, who had been obviously Coach Kyle Van Treese, but also, if you remember, Brandon Bailey was at Buffalo. So to be able to have knowledge of what he was about and what a great teacher he was, the energy he brought, how he is a master of his craft in strength and conditioning, but really how he sets the culture on a day-to-day basis. I just got done watching the first workout this morning and was absolutely blown away. The attention to detail that he brought and the accountability that he brought talk to each and every kid to the most minute detail. It was special to see. You know, I've been doing it 30 years, but all of a sudden you see that and you go, wow, and that's truly special. That guy's special. He brings in Jacob Byron also, who's from Buffalo. They've been at the best of the best. You know, Coach Heist has been at Baylor. He's been at Nebraska with Coach Roll. He understands what it takes to win at this level, and so glad that he's with us.
And it's crazy to think, but we also have to look ahead to the fall. You're thinking, oh, it's months away, but it'll be here in the blink of an eye. So what are your expectations for this coming fall?
Every time we go in, I think that you have to have the mindset that you're out to win a championship. That's what Georgia Southern's always been about. I look outside my window every morning with my cup of coffee, and there's 6 national championship flags on the stadium. And so if you don't have the expectation that and the standard of winning championships, I think you're wrong, to be honest with you. As proud as I am of being able to, you know, have the opportunity to lead a program into back-to-back bowl games from where it was to where it is now, yeah, I'm proud, but at the end of the day, I know there's still work to do. The ultimate vision is to be able to build a consistent championship football team. You know, there's been so many coaches that have come in here and you know, been here, had success, and leave. I want to be the coach that did it like Coach Russell, to be honest with you. I want to be the one that builds something that lasts for a long time, and put some more championship flags and banners on this stadium.
We talk about the power of Paulson. The home schedule for this 2024 season is elite. You look at the 5 FBS teams that are coming in: Marshall, App State, James Madison, Troy, Boise State, South Carolina State will also be here. The 5 FBS teams all went to bowl games. Troy, Boise State won their conference. Just what excites you the most about having that schedule the way that it is? Well,
if I'm a fan, I'm going to get my tickets right now, because you're talking about premier football teams in the country that have had a lot of success. You mentioned the 2 conference champions. You know, how about the first game against Boise State? You got one of the top quarterbacks in the country coming in here, Malachi Nelson. You have 2 conference champions in Troy and Boise State, and then you think about just when you bring in rivals like App State and JMU and Marshall, the power of Paulson will have to be at its highest. Our success in the 24 season will be dictated at home, and that's a special thing. You love to have your toughest games at home. That's what we've got this year, just a premier home schedule. So I hope everybody goes out and buys their tickets, season tickets, and the power of Paulson is once again alive and well.
Of course, all of what we've talked about is part of your vision. Moving forward into this upcoming year, what is your vision for this program? How do you define it?
Yeah, you know, I mentioned it earlier, Whitney. I have this dream of you know, building something the right way, building it through hard work and work ethic, with young men from Georgia and the surrounding states, bringing in the highest level of developers as coaches that care for student athletes and lift them up to be the most valuable asset that they can become, and where this becomes the premier group of 5 program that everybody looks and say, hey, that is a national brand, Georgia Southern is, and is competing in this new playoff world of 12 teams, that it's the premier one that's talked about. And it's about saying, hey, they're the ones that have the opportunity to be undefeated and go to the playoff this year. That takes time, you know, and it takes commitment, and that's what I'm willing to give. Like I said earlier, I want to be the coach that, you know, builds something and it lasts, and then, you know, I want this to be my last job and pass it off to somebody to continue it on. But it's a vision of consistent championships.
Well, Coach, it's always, like I said off the top, a pleasure to get to talk with you, pleasure to get to work with you. So excited to see what's to come in 2024.
Thank you, Whitney.